Hello and welcome to the Paul Scoble interviews. On today's programme we'll be talking to Junior Home Office Minister Peregrine Fortescue Smythe. Hello. Minister, why does the Home Office seem to hate the Windrush generation so much? Hate them? Why do you think we hate them? Well, the arbitrary removal of citizenship, the deportations, the racist go-home vans. Oh, but we don't hate them at all. They've been so useful. Useful? What do you mean, useful? Post-war Britain had a chronic shortage of working-class oiks to do all of the work, as a lot of the workers had been killed during the war. It turns out that the lower orders did most of the fighting in the same way that they did most of the work. So we asked our colonial brothers to help out the motherland in her hour of need. The higher orders didn't want to help out? Oh dear boy, what was the point of creating all of this inequality if those at the top end up doing any work? The working classes are called that for a reason. Look, my ancestors stole, cheated, murdered and enslaved thousands of people so I could have this privilege. After they did all that, you don't think we're going to stoop to doing manual labour? So, as rich people won't work, we imported a workforce. Quite! And they've been being useful ever since. What do you mean? The Windrush generation and their descendants have been amazing as marketing and PR for the right and ruling classes, as well as a fantastic distraction for the proles. How do they work as marketing for the right? The populist right have always used racism as a way to sell themselves. You have to have a group to demonise. Everything bad must be blamed on a scapegoat. The British public have always been partial to a little bit of racist rhetoric. In the 60s, one of our election slogans was, "If you want an N-word for a neighbour, vote Labour." Well, that's not going to work if there aren't a few Caribbeans knocking about. Racism without other races would be difficult. Quite, and every few years we get to highlight their presence to keep the racist panic going, from their arrival to racist campaigns of the 60s, the sus laws of the 70s, civil unrest in the 80s, and more recently we got some lovely racist propaganda when we removed their citizenship and deported them. And as a distraction? Well, capitalism is a system that allows individuals to concentrate capital, land and property. It automatically creates wealth and poverty, and the longer it goes on, the more wealth and poverty it creates. No sane society would stand for the amount of poverty that capitalism causes, so the haves have to make sure that the have-nots think that their poverty comes from somewhere other than capitalism. So the Windrush generation are a distraction. Actually, the distraction is immigration, but they represent this to most racists. It's quite ridiculous, of course. People's wages are cut by their bosses, not by some immigrant, and it's not immigrants that are putting up their rent. But if you can pin the blame on someone with different coloured skin or a funny accent, people will rush to believe you. Are people really that hateful? Oh, you have to fill the papers and TV with overtly racist rubbish. That's how we created the hostile environment. Constant propaganda, so people can't even consider an alternative reason for their problems. It seems like a lot of effort to go to just to keep people distracted. It does far more than just distract people. Racism has been used for years to control the lower classes. What do you mean? In the early 19th century, the trades union movement started to take notice of the slave revolts that had been happening in the Caribbean, and realised that the slaves and the European wage slaves shared a common goal. It scared the absolute crap out of the ruling classes, I can tell you. If all workers united against those at the top, the game was up. There was no way we could win. Why not? Numbers, old boy, they massively outnumbered us, so we had to split them up to prevent solidarity, and one of the ways we did it was by using racism. That's why the right-wing media go on about the white working class so much. They want them to think that their race makes them different from other workers, and this fragments the working class. What do you mean it fragments the working class? Well, socialism has always been an internationalist movement. It's workers of the world unite, not workers who look similar to me unite. If you can split it along nationalist or racial lines, socialism loses most of its power. You have to convince workers that they have more in common with their bosses and landlords than they have with other workers who simply have slightly different coloured skin. Which is patently ridiculous. Of course, but with the constant demonisation of other races or nationalities, we can get the white working class to cheerlead their own poverty and enslavement. So the media has turned Britain into a horrible right-wing racist country so that you can maintain control and privilege. Yes, nobody said privilege was nice. Peregrine Fortescue Smythe, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.